What would you do if you paid for first-class service, only to be humiliated and denied the very meal you deserved? Would you stay quiet, swallow the insult, and move on? Or would you rise up, show them who you really are, and make sure the world never forgets? Today's story will shock you, inspire you, and leave you on the edge of your seat. So before we dive in, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, because you won't want to miss stories like this, where justice always finds its way. The plane was buzzing with chatter as business executives settled into their plush first-class seats. Among them sat Danielle Carter, a sharp, elegant black woman in her early 40s, dressed in a tailored navy blazer that screamed authority. She was not just another passenger. Danielle was the CEO of a multi-million-dollar tech firm that had taken Silicon Valley by storm. She had broken barriers, shattered ceilings, and climbed ladders people never thought she could. But today, she wasn't sitting in that wide leather seat as a CEO. She was simply a paying passenger, looking forward to a quiet flight and the luxury she had rightfully purchased. But what Danielle didn't know was that this flight would turn into one of the most humiliating experiences of her life, and eventually one of the most empowering. The flight attendants moved gracefully up and down the aisle, placing trays of salmon, roasted vegetables, and artisan bread in front of the passengers. The air was filled with the warm aroma of garlic butter and grilled chicken. Every tray looked like it belonged in a five-star restaurant. Danielle leaned back, expecting the same. After all, she had booked first class, just like everyone else. But when her tray arrived, her smile faded. On the small white plate sat a thin slice of dry bread and a glass of plain water. Nothing else. No entree, no dessert, no carefully plated meal. Just bread and water, like she was in some kind of prison. "Excuse me," Danielle said calmly, raising her hand. "I think there's been a mistake." The flight attendant, a tall woman with icy blue eyes, leaned in with a stiff smile. "No mistake," she said curtly. "This meal fits you." Danielle froze. The words stung like venom. Around her, a few passengers chuckled under their breath. One man in a suit even whispered to his neighbor, both of them smirking. Danielle's chest tightened, not because of hunger, but because of the blatant disrespect. She took a deep breath, her CEO composure kicking in. "I paid for the same service as everyone else. I'll have my full meal, please." But the attendant's smile widened, her tone laced with mockery. "Bread and water. That's all we have left for you." The unspoken message hung heavy in the air. Danielle's hands trembled, not from fear, but from anger. She glanced at the man across the aisle, who had been served a plate piled with filet mignon and roasted potatoes. He looked at her tray, then smirked knowingly. Danielle realized this wasn't a mistake. This was deliberate. Still, she didn't lash out, not yet. Instead, she pulled out her phone. With one swift motion, she dialed a number. The cabin grew tense as passengers noticed her serious expression. Her voice was calm, but sharp as a blade. "Fire them. Now." The entire crew froze. The smirks disappeared. The whispers stopped. Nobody realized that Danielle wasn't just a passenger. She was also on the executive board of the airline itself. This flight was about to turn into a storm no one on board could forget. The silence in the cabin was thick. Passengers who had been laughing moments ago now exchanged nervous glances. The flight attendant who had mocked Danielle shifted uncomfortably, her confidence melting away. She tried to laugh it off, whispering to her colleague, "She's bluffing. She can't do anything up here." But Danielle wasn't bluffing. She leaned back at her seat, her phone pressed firmly to her ear. On the other end of the line, a calm voice replied, "Understood, Miss Carter. Consider it done." Those few words carried weight. Weight that the crew had no idea would come crashing down on them the moment this plane touched the ground. As Danielle ended the call, she looked out the window, steadying her breath. Her mind flashed back to the long road that had brought her here. Growing up in Atlanta, she had been told time and time again that she would never make it. Teachers doubted her, classmates mocked her, and even some family members questioned her dreams. But Danielle had turned those doubts into fuel. She worked tirelessly through college, taking on 2 jobs while studying computer science. She became the first Black woman in her university's tech program to graduate with top honors. Later, she fought her way into Silicon Valley's elite, surrounded by people who didn't look like her, didn't sound like her, and often didn't want her there. Still, she proved herself. And now, sitting in first class, she was being served bread and water as if her success meant nothing. The humiliation wasn't just about the food. It was about being told in front of everyone that she didn't belong. That no matter how hard she had worked, some people would always try to strip her of her dignity. But Danielle was not the kind of woman to let injustice slide. She glanced around the cabin, noticing how some passengers avoided her eyes, while others openly grinned at her embarrassment. A man, too, rose ahead, leaned over to his colleague, and muttered, "They should be grateful we even let them in first class." His companion laughed, nodding in agreement. Danielle's stomach turned, but her expression remained calm, unreadable. The flight attendant returned, still holding that cold smirk. "Is there anything else, Miss Carter?" she asked with mock politeness. Danielle locked eyes with her. For a moment, the woman faltered under Danielle's unwavering gaze. It wasn't anger, it was authority. The kind of authority that made boardrooms fall silent, investors sign checks, and competitors back down. "Yes," Danielle said softly, her voice steady but cutting through the tension like glass. "You should enjoy this flight. It will be your last one in uniform." The attendant blinked, her smirk fading. "Excuse me." "You heard me," Danielle replied, leaning back, folding her arms. "I already made the call." Whispers rippled through the cabin. Some passengers pulled out their phones, pretending to check emails, but really recording the moment. Others whispered, "Who is she?" The answer would soon send shockwaves far beyond the walls of this airplane. But just when Danielle thought the worst was behind her, another twist came. The head flight attendant appeared, a tall man in his 50s with neatly combed silver hair. His voice carried authority, and his expression showed irritation. "Ma'am," he began, lowering his voice, but not enough to keep others from overhearing. "If you continue causing a scene, I'll have no choice but to notify the captain. We may need to escort you off the plane when we land." The audacity stunned even the passengers. Danielle? Causing a scene? She had been nothing but calm. But Danielle simply raised an eyebrow. "Is that so?" she asked. "Yes," the man pressed his jaw tight. "We don't tolerate difficult passengers." The room seemed to tilt. A few passengers gasped quietly. Everyone expected Danielle to argue, to defend herself. But instead, she did something no one expected. She smiled, because Danielle knew something the crew didn't. She wasn't just a board member of the airline. She was the largest private shareholder. The authority she carried wasn't limited to her business empire. It extended into the very company these flight attendants worked for. And in a matter of hours, when this plane touched down, the entire crew would discover just how difficult their passenger really was.